This is your aura. A beautiful reflection of all that you are.
Welcome to the first episode of the SmarterEdge podcast, powered by Lenovo. This series is all about diving into the tech shaping the way we work, innovate, and live in an increasingly digital world. Today, we're tackling something that affects all of us: productivity. Whether you're in a corporate office, running your own business, or working from your favorite coffee shop, the way we work has changed. And with tools like Copilot and Windows 11 and the Lenovo ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition, businesses and individuals are gaining the edge to work smarter, not harder. With Windows 10 approaching end of support, it's so important to upgrade your device to Windows 11 for productivity, security, and AI integration. To help us unpack this, I'm joined by an incredible panel of experts who I'm really excited to talk to. And first up is someone who's not a stranger to our TV screens, Leanne Manas, award-winning broadcaster and businesswoman who knows all about balancing efficiency in a high-pressure environment. Thanks so much for joining us.
So good to be here, Matt. Thank you.
Looking forward to our chat. And then we're also joined by Sianda Vimbeli, who is the product manager at Lenovo South Africa, who understands the technology powering business productivity. Thank you so much.
It's good to be here.
And last but certainly not least, Kobus de Beer, who's the IT distribution and channel executive with deep insight into how businesses are integrating Windows 11 into their workflow. Thank you so much for...
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, let's dive in. Let's kick off with something that affects all of us: productivity. We are working faster, we're juggling more, and let's be honest, sometimes it feels like the to-do list never ends. I know that's the case for me, and it's something I'm constantly trying to work out. But what's changed is how we use technology to manage our work. And with AI now playing such a big role, it feels like we're entering a whole new era of efficiency. And we're all trying to figure out the best ways we can take advantage of that and optimize our efficiency. And over the years, businesses have had to evolve and professionals have had to adapt. But what are some of the biggest shifts you've noticed when it comes to productivity, and how do you think AI-powered tools are changing the game? How about you in particular, yeah?
I mean, it's been revolutionary, from when I started. And I go back a couple of years when I remember, and I work in a very different industry to everybody else here. Maps, you and I share similarities, and yet they are still different, because I come from an environment where you're working in news, and so you're working in this broadcast environment where, if I go back to where I started, and I'm talking on this particular program that I'm doing, so it's so wonderful to be able to see the evolution of technology. So I go back 21 years, and I think how news was when I first started on this program to where it is now. It's almost mind-blowing. In those days, there would be fax machines, and that would be the way that you communicate with your viewer. So you would literally put out a question, you would ask the viewer what they thought about a certain topic, and then that topic would only be tackled the next day, because that would be the way that the viewer could get hold of us.
Yeah.
There was nothing immediate, there was nothing now, there was nothing instant about what we did. And it's incredible how things have changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would you say it's put a lot more pressure on the newsroom?
It has, because the newsroom is fighting for relevance at the end of the day. Because you know that things are going out there, but it's going out there dangerously, because people are taking to social media, and they'll spread disinformation in them, because you'll hear a story. I mean, yesterday was one sort of thing where I was sitting on social media, but I know I'm on top of news, and somebody put out a message on their Facebook feed to say, "Oh, just heard the terrible news that so-and-so has passed." Somebody that we're watching at the moment that's very ill, but they go ahead. It's a normal person who's got nothing to do with media, goes and says that. And everybody flocks to that and says, "Oh no, that's terrible." And then they start spreading that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this, I'm saying, but that's absolutely wrong. It's alarming. And then maybe 15 or 20 minutes later, this person deletes it because they realize they're actually talking rubbish and they don't know what they're talking about.
I can confirm, Gobus, I'm not sure if you have ever had it, Leanne, we might have, but there's nothing worse than going to social media and finding out that you passed away and then trying to contemplate your life, figuring out whether you're in another world or...
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely goes without saying, though, that without powering your business, without powering yourself, the newsrooms, every aspect of where you work, that you definitely be lagging behind without AI.
Yeah, I mean, it's blatant. These days, AI is everything. I mean, it is. It's not everything. It's an add-on to productivity. It streamlines everything for me. However, I have to work with AI to ensure that what I'm doing is beneficial to me and to a viewer. So I use it a lot, but at the same time, I also help it.
Yes.
So, and it's taken me a while to understand that AI is not going to take my job. It really isn't, because I've always been very worried about it, thinking, man, I mean, you could just get a robot or AI to read the news to people, but that's not what I do. There is so much more to what I do, and that's why I am loving what it's doing for me, but I'm also loving that it's giving me more time to actually analyze and work better on the content that I produce. And I'm hoping newsrooms are doing that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And now I know we're talking a lot about technology, but it's not just about cool features. It's about making our lives a whole lot easier, right? So, Sienna, I've been hearing some really interesting things about, and I don't want to get this wrong, the ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition with Intel Core Ultra 7 processor, Intel vPro, Intel Evo Edition device with Copilot Plus PC and Windows 11. What exactly makes this device stand out, and why is it such a game changer for professionals who need top-tier performance? Because it doesn't sound like the performance gets any top tier than all of that.
Yeah, I know, definitely, Mouse. It's a game changer. I mean, the Lenovo ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition is basically our device that allows you to have AI capabilities on the hardware and software on the device as well, right? I'm going to try and explain this without using too many geek terms, as simple as possible. So the device has what we call a neural processing unit, so an NPU short, okay? So any AI-related activity or task completed on the device will then use the NPU. So you will always have processing power, like you said earlier, on the Ultra 7 device. What does this actually mean for the consumer, for the user? You know, like, I mean, we speak AI on hardware, software, speaking NPU, there's a lot of jargon going around. So I'd like to maybe share a few examples that we all use on a day-to-day basis, devices like this. So I'm pretty sure everyone here has used Microsoft Teams before, right? You all use Microsoft Teams. So for example, on the Lenovo ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition, when you're using Teams, you can easily transcribe whatever is being said in that meeting, okay? So someone on the background, AI is taking down notes, it's transcribing everything while you speak. So we also have something called meeting recap. So basically what that means, at the end of the meeting, or the Teams meeting rather, you get a set of notes, you get a set of action items as well on the device, on Teams, that basically gives you what you've discussed in the meeting, tells you the actions as well. So Leah and Lee need to go and do this for us, you need to go and do this. And so we've already done all of that on the background. Another key feature that I really like on Teams as well is the fact that you know that there's half the team in the meeting, the other half is online. I mean, some of the guys are in the office, but two are at their desk and one is here. So like it's a whole community of people, and you're all joining here. So what then Team allows you to do is there's a function called auto framing. So let's say you speak him up. So the camera auto frames you so that you can look nice and professional, and everyone knows that it's Bob speaking right now. So there's something called noise isolation as well. So let's say Leanne is at home and her dog is barking on the background. It isolates her voice so that it comes out much more better than everything else that's in the background. And all of that is like AI capabilities that's going on the device.
Incredible.
Oh
my gosh. So really, really intuitive AI that actually works with us in all our pressing needs of the things that we would kind of neglect and forget about, because, you know, that's the kind of thing where, you know, I always go back to that video. Remember that little girl who walked into the meeting through COVID. I mean, I'd imagine immediately I would kind of like want to focus on her dad and probably blur out everything else in the background, and that would save him in that instance. But then it obviously would have also taken away a great moment for all of us.
That's it. That was brilliant.
So, I mean, the technology has moved so much, it's made things so much easier and the productivity as well. So the key to that, if I take it back to my geek terms, right, there's something called large language model, which we all know about, right? You go on the internet, you start typing, you start chatting to something, and it starts giving you back these answers. Now, when we talk about the Lenovo ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition, we have what we call local large language modeling. So you can now start doing all of those things on the device itself. And because it has that neural processing unit or NPU that I spoke about earlier, you're doing all of that stuff on the device itself. So now we're talking about like security, for example. You know, what access are you giving the person that's using this device in terms of obtaining information, obtaining data? Like I said, the photosynthesis example. You've got all the documents there and you've loaded it. So consider, for example, you were in a corporate environment, right? And you only want people to study or portray or get data from what you are giving them. The Lenovo X9 Aura Edition allows you to then obviously load all those documents onto that platform, and then you start interacting, whether it's a policy document or a process document. You start speaking to the device and it starts answering you in like a natural language, and most importantly, it's on the device itself. So it's secured, number one, it's accurate as well. I mean, we've all been on the internet where you go on I'll call them things or chatbot, whatever. You go and you start, all it's doing is going on the background and looking at the internet, bringing it back. So it's all cloud-based, right? What we're talking about here is all local, obviously with the power of the internet.
And as a result, far more personalized in that regard as well. Well, I mean, we talk about the ThinkPad Aura X9 edition and all the other acronyms that come with that. Spoke to us about the MPU and the speaking and going on about the power of the Intel 7 processor, the Intel Evo edition, plus PC Copilot. Getting me excited. I mean, that's it. This is the kind of thing that gets you pushed up. I mean, I don't want to prevent any great acronyms on your side as well. So tell us a bit about the SECURITY security that, because, there's one thing we're all worried about. It's that, and it's keeping our data safe. I mean, cybercrime is at an all-time high. And whether you're running a business or working on personal projects, you want to know your information is really, really well protected. I mean, I have seen recently that there's a budget of around 40% for most financial businesses in particular, that now they've dedicated to cybersecurity because the amount of crime and fraud that happens and the amount of hacking that happens. And so this is quite a critical part of it all. I mean, can you break down how Windows 11 has stepped up its security game and why a business should care, or why businesses should care?
So, yeah, perhaps cybersecurity is top of mind of everybody, and so is AI. The cyber criminals are using AI as well. With Lenovo and the X9 and what Intel and Microsoft is specifically doing is how do we secure the user at a device point, which is like the first point of intrusion. So, if we call out things like secure boot and bit-up encryption, it's all mechanisms that the hardware together with the software enables the security of the user, and especially the user's interface and the way that we're logging onto our systems. As an example, in the past, you might lose your PC or your device, and if you don't have these features enabled, the cyber criminals can quickly log into your system and have access to your data. That's where the risk is. Microsoft, Intel, and Lenovo is working together to really enable the utilization of what all this technology brings together. So it's not, a chef putting stuff into a pot and they're putting this, a fantastic recipe together to, drive the security home with the user. There's features like, how many passwords do you have to remember on a daily basis? That's one example. So with Windows 11 in the Aura X9, you don't need passwords. So there's a feature called Windows Hello, and you can basically just look at your device and it will unlock. We have also worked together with Microsoft to enable biometric unlocking. That is another feature. So, these are small things, but it's protecting the biggest scheme of things.
Obviously not advised when you're wearing a mask and gloves as well.
No, so yes, but it's just... He said, he's talking about Squid Games.
The mask, you might get away with it, but the gloves are titled.
I mean, we are seeing that a whole lot more. There's a lot more focus on security just in general. And we've seen the rise across all platforms in all sorts of different tiers of technology of the importance of things such as two-factor authentication. I sometimes go and visit my nieces, and my one niece will make it really hard for me to get in the house. Will make me sing and dance, and I take that as a two-factor authentication to be allowed in before I can go and see them. But it's a really important part of staying secure in what would be quite a simple way, but in a way that many people do take for granted. Yeah, cybercrime is at an all-time high, and whether you're running a business or working on personal projects, you want to know that your information is protected. I mean, Leanne, I know security is something that's affected you personally as well, with social media and AI, identity theft, scams are on the rise. At least I saw you post something a little while ago where there was a whole scam going around, and I'd love for you to share a bit about your own experiences and what we need to be aware of.
Yeah, just from on a side note, I'll get to your question now. But I mean, when you are working on something in your private capacity, I want to know that I'm protected. I want to know that nobody's going to hack in and see all of these things. I mean, if you're sitting on a Teams meeting, and I know that I was sort of giving a lecture not so long ago to some university students, and I was using tools to look up as I was going along. It would be great to have your sort of intel that'll help me as I'm going along, which is absolutely fantastic. I didn't even know it's something I could pick up, and so really educating me. But at the same time, I want that information to be protected because I know what it's like to be the victim of cybercrimes. And I'm not talking about having money stolen from my bank account or me giving my bank account details to somebody and someone stealing something from me, but to actually be the victim of identity theft. And this has been such a difficult thing that I'm currently going through right now. I can promise you that us sitting in this broadcast right now, I've probably got about 15 emails of people asking me, where do they deposit their money? How can I invest in your scheme? How can I, and there's, what they've done is, and you as well, Kobus, for speaking about it, how people, they use AI and they're using my image, my voice, my everything to lure people into investing into schemes and scams that I have nothing to do with. I don't know about them. I have never seen them. I don't know how they work. I don't know who's behind it. But all I know is that my face is all over every social media. This is an international criminal syndicate we're talking about. We're not talking about some guy sitting in a dark room, wherever he may be. This is massive. Yeah. And I don't think you can emphasize cybersecurity enough. And that is something I'm very, very passionate about. And the more you as developers get out there and develop the fact that we can be safe in what we're doing, but also, and this is the most important part, Maps, is that you and I can talk about this until we're blue in the face. You can develop things until you can't develop anymore. But if consumers don't educate themselves and understand that you've got to be so sensitive and so careful with what you share and who you trust. Never trust anyone. They need to earn your trust. Don't just give your money. It's important. These are very important aspects.
Well, I'm sorry that you are going through that. I have unfortunately had very similar experiences, and I'm going through something very similar right now. But I think my biggest fear is the deep fake part. I'm lucky enough to have not had that. That is crippling me with fear that one day that happens, where someone is actually misrepresenting something that you purported to have said, but it isn't you at all. And I think that must be quite a chilling thing to have to deal with.
Scary. But there are signs that people need to look out for. And that's why I say education is huge. I mean, I listen to this and I know it's not me. I mean, I can hear it's a different accent. I can hear, I mean, these deep fakes are not very good, and yet they're still catching people. But the reality is that it is going to get more and more, and it already is more sophisticated. Absolutely. And it's a big problem. So yeah, we just need security on a level that we need to be one step ahead of the criminals. And the problem is we'll have to hear from these guys how we do that.
And you used the key word that I wanted to kind of present to the team, which is with the sophistication of these crimes using AI just kind of getting so advanced. How does Lenovo and Windows 11 combat that?
It's unfortunate to hear what Leanne's had actually gone through. So, in conjunction, Microsoft and Intel and Lenovo are working very closely with each other to enable the ecosystem around helping identifying, potential AI threats at the device. And so that's what we are doing from, trying to get, 1 foot ahead of what these cyber criminals are doing. But they're also very smart people, right? So the ecosystem is trying to work on it. We don't have all the answers yet, but, we one step closer to winning the battle against them.
No. So, I mean, just to add to what Gogos was saying, data and privacy is a really, really big thing for us. And we're making sure that whatever we develop, there is some kind of element of data and privacy security around it. So if we take, for example, again, the Lenovo ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition, there's really 2 big features, small difference, but make a big impact in your day-to-day life that we've embedded on the device. So there's something that we call privacy alert. Okay, so how privacy alert works is that if you are, for example, say in a coffee shop or even at home, when you are busy typing on your PC or working on your device, and someone walks behind you and looks over your shoulder, you get a quick prompt, and it's like a split second. I mean, I've tested this out at the office, and we're all laughing while I'm working. Someone walks past, and then I get this notification that someone is looking over your shoulder. So that's really, really important to us. Another one would be Privacy Guard as well. Privacy Guard, let's say again, you're at a coffee shop and you're sitting and you're trying to work and someone walks over your PC or looks over your shoulder, it automatically blurs your screen. So no one can actually steal your data. No one can visually hack you, for a lack of a better word. Wow. You can't be guaranteed that at all times and anywhere you're working at, you are the only person that's looking at your data. And it is a bit private.
That's great. Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. I've never even heard something like that. That's incredible. And would you say, when you're speaking about the progression of all this great security, do you think we'd also get to a point where, we look at all our AI created things, and sometimes the deep fakes will get to a point where if we're looking at something on a Lenovo device, that it will have a little bit of a warning, like, just so you know, this might be AI created.
Yeah, definitely. So, the NPU that Siana alluded to earlier is going to enable the devices like the Lenovo X9 to do like AI threat detection, so it'll monitor if there's all of a sudden an increase with regards to data that is being generated or being drawn from your PC, and it will give you notification. And again, in conjunction with the rest of the ecosystem, when we start talking about security providers, they will utilize the technology from the Lenovo devices and NPU as an example to help with those, how to identify when it is a deepfake as an example, what do we need to look out for? Again, just maybe an industry, some information. We are seeing close to 1,000, 2,000 new AI apps being created on the internet every single day. So these guys are really driving innovation, but also for the bad things as well.
Now, a lot of people are working in hybrid or in fully remote setups. And Leanne, I'd love to know, as someone who's had to kind of balance being both in studio and on the go, how do you think this shift is changing the way that people work?
It's revolutionized it. It really has. I again come from the broadcasting perspective where, and I think this is the advent of COVID that for us as broadcasters has brought this about. Whereas before COVID, before the whole lockdown thing, a guest was never online. I mean, it would be a Skype call that you'd have to dial into, and it was really something that was quite foreign. We would never have guests that were, you'd have to go to a studio that was set up in the province, and they'd have to go, for instance, if it was in Cape Town, we're in Joburg, they'd have to go to the studio, you had to get the whole crew to go in, set it up, pay for that crew, have this link from Cape Town to Joburg and every other major city.
OB broadcasts.
That kind of stuff. That is disappeared overnight, literally overnight that all disappeared. Nowadays, and I'm not joking when I tell you that if a guest walks into studio now, it's like, oh, this is so nice. Oh, look at you, there's a person in front of me. Nobody comes in anymore. It's now everything is online. Everything is on, as you're saying, Teams or I don't know, Zoom. Is that it's still a thing. But yeah, I mean, that's what people do these days. You don't actually see that. And I do miss this because you pick up on one another, you feed on one another. And I think
oxytocin.
I love it. I love it. But it has completely changed. And I understand this, which is a great thing because it doesn't matter where in the world you are. I mean, I have literally done crossings onto live television from a cell phone that, we'll set it up. We'll be speaking about a story that is happening right in front of my eyes, but I don't have a camera. I'm on a cell phone. And this is what technology has done. It has enabled you to go to places you didn't think you were going to go to without having to have big trucks and vans and cameras and microphones and all of this. You have a device and you're live on television. And it's absolutely incredible. These are the kind of things which have developed, and it's become amazing.
Yeah.
You're buying time. Things are more efficient. You don't have to get stuck in traffic. I think it's just made things much easier, which I welcome.
I love how that ties in beautifully, although it's more of an analogy of how you said it makes all the difference that, someone is in person when you're doing the interview.
Yeah.
And you think of the content that someone gives you as the software, and them as a person is the hardware. And we know software is important, but the right device is also just so critical and makes all the difference. Gwibus, how is Lenovo optimizing devices like the ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition to maximize Copilot and Windows 11 potential?
So Copilot is a game changer when it comes to running it on Lenovo devices. So I can speak geek as well. So at the moment we're talking all about TOPS, trillion operations per second. So that is essentially what that neural processing unit actually does. Now Copilot is a digital assistant that Microsoft has brought to the market, which is essentially going to help the users enhance their productivity. So it's not going to take away our jobs, but if I'm pressed for time to quickly write an email to my boss about not making the target, or the customer is upset, as an example, I can quickly ask Copilot to draft this email while getting some other data correct. Utilizing and learning, getting back to what Jan spoke about earlier, there is the language models that is now embedded into Windows 11 to help me drive productivity. So, generating email is one thing. There are things, I've got kids and they need to do projects, and hey Dad, I need a picture of a cat on a surfboard. I can just go to Copilot, and it runs a technology called Standard Diffusion, and it'll actually quickly generate that picture for me. So I don't need to spend hours and hours browsing the internet to look for these type of things. So, that's what, productivity really brings from a Copilot Plus perspective onto the Lenovo X9 devices.
Wow.
So if I just quickly add to that as well, thanks for having me. We love Copilot. Copilot is like your AI companion. Yeah. We love it so much that we actually even have the Copilot button now on the device itself.
Oh.
As a hotkey.
Do you remember where the print screen button used to be on?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've removed that, and you actually got the Copilot button on the device. So click that button, it actually automatically opens up Copilot, and you can easily just start interacting with Copilot. And like Kobus was saying, there's nothing you can't do or ask Copilot that it can't give you an answer. One of my favorite features on Copilot is to use it on Excel, for example. So all you do is you dump some data there, and then you start interacting with it, again, in sort of like a human nature way. Tell it, okay, Copilot, please just summarize this data for me and give it to me in 3 or 4 sentences what it actually needs. It quickly does that, gives it to you, and then you can start throwing around graphs. Okay, do this graph, do this pie chart for me. Then you can start asking it to analyze the data. It's incredibly insane what you can do there. The other day I was sitting at home and bored, and I wanted to, because that's what we do, right? When you play with Copilot, you open it up, and there's this news, the Zondo Commission that's been going on. You've heard about it in the news and you've seen it, but I've never actually got into the details of it. So I quickly went onto the internet, opened up Copilot, and said, summarize this thing for me in 5 paragraphs. Okay. Quickly summarize it for you, it gives it to you, and then I started interacting with the information that I want to interact with. Okay, so what happened here? What happened here? What happened here? And 5 minutes later, I was an expert.
And that's what I was saying right at the beginning. That's how I have now used all of that for my job. So it's not that I don't do my own research. That is my research, but it's compact. It's there. But I've got to take it and get more time to analyze it a little bit more current events, because believe me, I was doing an interview this morning with, recently with the Premier who'd just given his State of the Province address, and that was just a matter of hours before. It couldn't help me with that. It could not help me with that. So it gave me more time to analyze all that he had said recently. Now, as a matter of a couple of minutes ago, with all the past that he'd made in his promises. And that's, you bring it together, and that's where I bring it together. And that's how it works. So I love that. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing.
But to add on to what Sia is saying is, so, from a consumer perspective, remember, whatever you're asking these assistants is cloud-based. So that's where it goes back to the user understanding what type of questions and data you want to actually upload onto it. So that's where businesses and enterprises are using co-pilots, and they're starting to ring-fence the information that they want these digital assistants to have access to. So if you're a chartered accountant working for a big, financial institution, you don't want these guys to upload, financial statements and information from their customers onto a public domain that is, extremely high security risk. So the IT managers in the back end working with, Microsoft to, ring-fence what data is actually allowed to be utilized on Copilot, and again, driving back, security and efficiency with the user, which is very important. So,
and Koba, speaking of updates, I mentioned that Windows 10 is reaching end of support. And you may think that that's something that's quite clear to understand, but what does it really mean?
So from a user perspective, it essentially means Microsoft is going to stop supporting Windows 10 from a security updates perspective, October 2025. So essentially, that's going to mean that users are going to be exposed with, the security updates that's not going to come. The many devices right now are eligible to be upgraded to Windows 11, but they will not take benefit of the hardware platform that Intel and Lenovo on X9 is essentially bringing to the market. So to get the full package and full coverage from a security enhancement perspective, we advise the customers to drive the device refresh or upgrade. And, upgrading to Windows sounds as easy as just pressing the upgrade button. But if you're a big enterprise business with many or thousands of devices within your environment, that could take anything from 100 to 400 days to actually plan the migration of the older platforms onto Windows 11. The easiest is just to upgrade, obviously. But, IT managers and IT decision makers needs to understand what vulnerabilities they're going to open up their businesses to if they don't, drive the refresh.
Well, that seems like some very vital information. So don't forget to upgrade your devices ASAP. Now, we don't just want tech that works. We also want tech that lasts. And I know, Sienda, you can tell us a lot about, how Lenovo and Windows 11 are ensuring sustainability with their latest devices.
Yeah, look, I think the first key thing is about battery life, around battery life. We've seen with Windows 11, your battery will actually last way longer than it did before. Previous operating systems and device. For example, in this one, you are guaranteed at least a full on day of battery life around the device.
No, I'm just laughing because, you can't use that excuse around I left my battery.
My charger, no.
It unlocks the whole day.
Yeah.
And if you look at the other elements of like the environment, social and governance as well, I think for us, Lenovo, that's quite critical and that's quite big, right? So for example, if you look at the packaging, on the Lenovo ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition, there's 0% plastic in the packaging. So as soon as you open it up, there's no packaging or plastic at all, rather, on the devices. If you look at the packaging itself, this is from a bamboo tree. So, you can see it still looks beautiful. And if I'm not mistaken, a bamboo tree is probably one of the most wildly grown tree in the world. So we are recycling in a way. If you look at the device itself, you can see we've inserted some markers in the device. So remember where the F and the and J was. So when you type, you just use your fingers and start typing. We've used those markers on other parts of the device as well. So for example, on the volume of the device, so you can easily just go and touch and you can know where the volume up and the volume down button is. We've inserted an LED sort of thing on the right hand side of the device where you can easily just touch and feel to know where to put in the charging point. That's all developed purely for visually impaired people and to make it easy for them to actually access this kind of technology that we see every day.
And it's incredible that because you would think those things are neglected. You see it neglected time and time again. A keyboard is a keyboard is a keyboard, but it's not. And the hardware that you utilize, it's so important that you prioritize things like accessibility, and the ergonomic use and I guess response of it makes all the difference. Wow, what an insightful discussion. Thank you so much, Leanne, Sia, and Kobus. I mean, we've spoken about everything from enhanced productivity to smarter security and hybrid work solutions. It's clear that Windows 11 and the Lenovo ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition are shaping the future of work. A massive thank you to our amazing panelists once again, and thank you so much for sharing your expertise. We really, really appreciate it. And of course, thank you to all of you tuning in. And if you want to stay ahead of the game, keep an eye out for the next episode of the SmarterEdge podcast. And if you're looking for the ultimate productivity tool, check out the Lenovo ThinkPad X9 Aura Edition, because smarter technology leads to a smarter future. See you next time.
This is your aura. A beautiful reflection of all that you are.
Lenovo.